Down Shabbat is almost upon us, and we have to share a few words from the Zohar from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because Bayifka, Besifrada, Yifkan min Galut Barachamim. The Zohar says about itself. You ever see a book talk about itself? The Zohar says about itself that from this book we will be redeemed in mercy. And redeemed from what? Well, redeemed from evil is the chief redemption, because redemption is required for something when the good is in the grasp of evil. The Zohar explains to us there are many levels of evil, and they're not all the same, and they're not all operate the same. Because there's the evil that tries to hide God. There's the evil that tries to lie about the Torah. There's the evil that tries to lie about the righteous. There's the evil that makes up stories about the righteous in order to persuade people from the truth. There's also all kinds of, all the types of evil that we know about when it comes to money, when it comes to relationships. Those things are all in the realm of the war between good and evil. The good has to fight. There is no such thing as not fighting. When it comes to the evils that we find in our own personality that we need to work on. Because the reason we get sent conflict is to work on ourselves. Because the conflict forces us to get up out of the lawn chair and look at ourselves and say, well, this conflict wouldn't be coming to me if I didn't have a piece of it in myself. And it's coming to me in order to fix it in myself. So you can say, well, I'm not going to fix the whole world. You're right. You're not going to fix the whole world. But if you fix your world, you're going to fix everything around you. So we need to face the evil that comes to us from the lower levels. But there is one high level of evil that the Zohar says we cannot, that goodness cannot destroy. So what does that mean? That in the end of days, evil is going to win because there's no goodness that can overcome it? Or does it mean something else? The Zohar says it means that there is a level of evil that is so evil that not only can goodness destroy it, other evil can't destroy it, but it will destroy itself. Now that impulse for self-destruction, I think people know what that is. There's you see it in the therapy room, you see it in all avenues of life, that people get to a point where they've had enough and they just don't want to go on. And that is what we call tamamita, the taste of death. The desire to not be alive is a taste of death. Now, that doesn't mean that God wants us to commit suicide, God forbid, lo aleinu. It's called murder in the Torah, to kill oneself. But there is a level where we have to surrender and let God finish the job. And God does it very subtly because he doesn't want to deal with it either. God pays off the evil in this world all their riches so he doesn't have to deal with them in the world to come. But if you look at a lot of the dictators of the 20th century, and a few, I guess there's still a couple around somewhere, but they're getting better and better at hiding, I have to tell you. They always end in isolation and self-destruction. In a bunker somewhere, in a foreign country somewhere, always by their own doing. And that is part of the reason why we rejoice. We rejoice that God is going to take care of those things that we can't do ourselves. And yet, it doesn't make us patur, doesn't make us not responsible for dealing with the lower levels. Now, we see this not only in dictators, we see this in people that give up on themselves. There's a level where people give up on themselves. And it's a very painful thing to watch, because there are people that will continue to hurt themselves no matter what you do. Now, the chief milieu where you see this the most, of course, is in hard drug addiction, where people are using deadly drugs and they see people dying around them and they hear the reports that it's deadly and they still keep doing it. Now you say, well, they can't stop. Well, we don't believe that. We never believe that. We always believe that with Hashem, we can do anything. And that means overcoming the evil within. So what does it take to get the king on our side? What does it take for the king to step in and remove the evil that we can't defeat? Well, it takes merit, it takes good deeds, it takes Torah, it takes prayer, it takes everything. Everything we've got to put into the equation. Now, what I've seen over and over by people that are having a hard time with life is they say, oh, I want to die. I want to die. And really what they're saying is, I feel like I'm dying because I'm not getting what I want, because I've reached a level where the life force is not flowing through me, and the positive flow of energy in the universe has been reversed. See, because death is not a thing. It is an absence of life. You see, now this is a pair of sunglasses, right? It's the opposite of sunglasses, clear glasses that let the sun all through. It's no glasses, right? The opposite of water is not oil or vinegar or some other liquid. The opposite of water is no water. And the opposite of life force is no life. And that becomes the definition of death. And so when we talk about evil, the real evil, the evil that is not interested in anything but itself, the evil that would rather die, like the terrorists that are attacking all over Israel every day the last few weeks and months, and it's been going on, and it might continue. Those people are happy to die for what they believe is their cause, and to kill other people, as many as they can. And you see, so that evil is, you see how they always end up doing stupid things and getting killed, because they're really doing themselves in, because they're dominated by that death force, which again is just the opposite of life. Their life is so not worth living, so why not die? Why not take out a few other people with me? And so when you see the people, I noticed on the news, these terrorists that are killing people are doing it in ways that get themselves killed immediately by the army or by the police. It's not like they're tricky or clever about it too much. They do it in open spaces and they get themselves shot immediately. You have young women with a little pocket knife or a knife from the kitchen, and they're attacking a 6'2" soldier, who's got an automatic weapon. And, you're like, duh, really? Is that what you're going to do? And they get themselves killed because they're possessed by complete evil. And that evil can only destroy itself in the end. And it will try to take out other people. And that is our suffering. If you look at when we suffer these things and you see that people are really hurting whole families and just, it doesn't end when one person is killed. His whole life is suddenly a black hole for so many other people. And they're the ones who carry the suffering. But they don't make a calculation of what suffering they're causing to their own people, to their own family. And then you have a government, the Palestinian people, which is not really a government. There is a Palestinian Authority that actually pays the families of terrorists who get killed money every month. And if they're in jail, they keep getting paid. Now, what is that? What kind of government is that? What kind of people pay terrorists to kill innocent, helpless civilians? That sounds pretty evil. And as Jews, we have an army. We have the ability to respond, and then it just escalates, kill from both sides of the story, and there's no solution. But the solution we see in the Zohar. Solution is that by having faith in a higher power, we resort to a different strategy, a different mindset. And we're not interested in playing revenge games, playing this kind of, they has to have these feuds back in the day, in the deep South. I guess they have had feuds more, all over the world. People, well, let's have a feud. You disagree with me, you cheated in poker. Well, let's go shoot each other, or you stole my girlfriend. Well, let's go shoot each other. Let's see who wins. That kind of attitude is rooted in the same thing. The willingness to die for a cause that's not worth dying for. And see, so that cause is a creation also of evil. So, we have to comfort ourselves a little bit in these days when people are falling in the streets, in the cafes, they're being run over at bus stops and shot down in their cars. We have to comfort ourselves to know that they're the ones that are leaving hell. They're the ones that are heading straight up. We're the ones that stay back here in this quasi hell, this place, this world where is really called Klipa Noga. It's the world where good and evil are mixed and hide each other. That evil's constantly trying to hide goodness. And then there are people that actually want to hide evil because they can't deal with it. They have too much cognitive dissonance when they confront the level of the evil that's out there. And so they deny it. And they even, there were 10 buses in Huara of supporters of, Western Jewish and non-Jewish supporters of terrorists because they identify with a different political agenda and not with the lives of the people that are being taken for no reason. And, the politics of the thing cannot be decided with guns. It never will be. But it's also not going to be decided with falsehood. It's going to be decided when the evil actually reveals itself and destroys itself completely. And that takes a long time because it's called a birur in Hebrew, a clarification. When you have like two liquids and you want to separate the elements in the liquid, you spin the liquid, right? And they separate. That's basically what's happening now between good and evil in the entire world. There's polarization. The good is getting better. That's what's crazy. Good people are getting better. Good things are getting better and more advanced and more beneficial to the world. And evil is getting worse and worse and worse. And that's that spinning, the centrifuge of the liquid, of the mixing of good and evil is spinning and pulling apart the two. And at one point, it's going to be very, very clear to know who's good and who's not. And when that happens, there's no more masquerade. The Purim story is over. We know who the enemy is, and we know how to deal. So, but we have to wait, and we have to be patient, and we don't want to take the law into our own hands like some people do. Because who says they're killing the right person, and who says the way they're doing is going to accomplish any good whatsoever? I drove through Huara a few days after the last incident when there were people burning. What were they burning? A car lot of dead junk cars that weren't even worth their parts got burnt. 2 of them. A few broken windows. But all over the world media, I was saying that the settlers are rioting. And they made a big story out of very little. And on the other hand, when it comes to, another innocent person being shot down in the streets and another attack on soldiers, and that gets about a half a line in the media. And so, obviously there are big forces behind the decisions of what makes it to the news and what doesn't, and big agendas that we're not all privy to. But that's okay. We know the general principle that if we attach ourselves to anything evil, it will infect and defect our truth. You can't be attached to evil and good at the same time when it comes to these matters. You have to make a choice. Who do you stand by? Who do you stand by? The people that are standing by insane policies, or the people that are speaking general, logical, common sense? So, Shabbat is coming, and the Shabbat is when, well, guess what? Shabbat is when the clarification is done. Shabbat is when there's no more fighting, because the higher soul comes down from heaven. It's been kept there since Mount Sinai. And the soul of Moses holds those Shabbos crowns, they're called in Kabbalah. And each person gets their little Shabbos crown for 24, 25 hours that they keep Shabbat. And then it goes back up. And so when we get those Shabbos crowns, we get that transcendental understanding, and the evil leaves. It just flies away. And you'll see that people that have bad traits and bad attitudes, and on Shabbat, they chill out. I see it all around me. I see it in people that I know that have issues. On Shabbat, they're different people. And I've seen it in other places, not just in Eretz Israel, but in Eretz Israel, it's very clear. It's very strong. So that's another example how goodness will win the war against evil. Because it's going to be an internal war that we answer by choosing good. And the good arouses the good in a person and in other people around them until there's such an upswelling of good that the evil just falls away. It doesn't mean we don't have to fight. We just have to fight smart. We have to fight the things that start out in ourselves. And the first fight, of course, is not to seek foolish vengeance and not to seek glory through someone else's misfortune or stupidity, and not to seek fame because, Rabbi Nachman teaches that if you want to be famous, enter controversy. Controversy is the automatic doorway to fame. Why? Because people love a good fight. They love a good fight in anything. People will go pay money just to watch roosters fight. It's so inhuman. It's so stupid. And people will fight to watch 50-year-old men box each other. It's embarrassing. And because that's just the nature of the being that we are, that we have been as a human race. But that's changing. And people are getting that. And every generation gets more and more refined. Rav Kook says that every generation becomes more beautiful and more intelligent. So what happens is that where are the Einsteins of this generation? Well, what happens is the dot spreads from one source, one great mind, into many little smaller minds. And so you see there's a spreading of goodness through the minds of good people. It's not as concentrated as it was in people like the Lubavitcher Rebbe or Rabbi Nachman or all the great ones from all the centuries. They had a high level of concentration of a divine soul. But it gets spread out through the generations, comes down to all of us. But even though we're on a lower level, there's a much greater breadth of goodness in the world today than there ever was. In my grandfather's generation, it was fine to make black people sit in the back of the bus. They didn't think twice about it. It took a revolution to bring that around. So you see, every generation gets better, more refined, even as things look worse and worse and worse. And we have to understand this and embrace both sides of that. So I want to bless you all with a good Shabbat, a clarified Shabbat. Don't let evil ruin your good. Don't let the bad time spoil the great times that we have in front of us and that are coming each and every day, month, and year, and festival until the complete redemption happens before our eyes. Shabbat Shalom. All the best.